Welcome back to your daily Layla Rose transmission. So today we'll talk about the Temple of Hathor and what it means to be a Kundalini gatekeeper. So it's a very spiritual topic today, obviously. But I want to make the connection as well with our modern times and what it means in, the current day and age of being a priestess or, having a divine feminine temple. And what's really interesting when I've been having those past life regression where, I was a high priestess in ancient Egypt, inside the Temple of Hathor, actually. What I noticed is that there are a lot of similarities between what was happening back then and now. And one of them is the wars that were happening. And so there was a lot of ego-powered wars between the different empires. A lot of men were very concerned about, not only protecting their empire, which makes sense, right? But they also had this obsession about, who's got the biggest land, who's got the biggest kingdom, right? And that's when, when men step into this egoic type of energy, unfortunately, that's when women and children get hurt the most. That's when you have men being controlled by their ego, and they're very, closed down. They're very self-serving, selfish. And it reminds me of the patriarchy system that we're living in, depending on where you're located, but for the most part, the patriarchy is what, runs this world. And a lot of it is all about, power and who's got the most money and blah, blah, blah. And so obviously not every single kingdom was like that. The kingdom that I was in, so my husband in that lifetime, he was someone that was very spiritual. He was initiated into the priesthood as well. So he, he really valued and honored the rituals and the divine feminine arts. And he would always serve God, so Ra, the God's son, right? He would always serve Ra first, and then he would serve the feminine energy. And because of that, obviously he was very masculine. He was very protective of our kingdom, but also he wasn't, this asshole. I don't have any other words to describe it. But yeah, he wasn't run by his ego at all. He did need some sort of ego just to make sure that, we would be protected and provided for and cared for, but it wasn't the main driving force behind what it was doing. And he still had to deal with other leaders that had a big ego, so he had to adapt as well. So that's something, that's very interesting to look at. And I would say right now in our modern times, we can see a lot of, similar things happening where it's like we need this balance with all this corporate egoistic agenda. We need the divine feminine to balance it, right? And that's what the Hathor Mystery School is about. It's an etheric divine feminine temple. And the reason why it's etheric is because we're in the Aquarian age, which is, an air sign. And it's also about technology, the digital era. So it just makes sense that this type of divine feminine temple would be in the quantum realm, right? And what's really amazing is that it's even more accessible now for people to, all around the world to have access to those teachings, because back then we had to like walk and have horses and move around. It would take a lot of time, obviously, to just move around, and usually it was people that would come visit the temples, to receive the knowledge. But it was much more secret, and it was much more harder to access, right? So what is a Kundalini gatekeeper? So this is how we actually call the priestesses within the Temple of Hathor, because the mysteries that were taught within that school was also called the Rose Flame Serpent Mystery School. And when we refer ourselves to the serpent, we're talking about the spiritual meaning of it. So it's about transformation, rebirth. A snake is very powerful as well. It's about going into the subconscious to bring it forward to the conscious. I talk a lot about the serpent in my book, Hathor, Building the Priestess Empire, because it has such a deep, profound meaning. And this is also why pharaohs had serpents on their crown as well, right in the middle, right? So it represents the Kundalini. And so the reason why the priestesses were assigned to be Kundalini gatekeepers is because they were the ones, teaching this philosophy basically, and they would do all the rituals and practices, and they would make, people go through these stages of initiation. So that's what it means. Obviously it sounds a bit woo, but when you think about it, they were basically teaching enlightenment and how to transcend the ego, but obviously by using the power of the moon, the subconscious, and the feminine energy. And so right now, our collective is really yearning for this type of knowledge, because we, especially in the Piscean age, like we've stepped into this era of, there was a lot of power imbalances. And yes, the great thing now is that a lot of it is being exposed. I don't know if you noticed, but there's a lot of shit getting exposed right now. And people are really understanding that this went way too far, because obviously we do need some sort of ego to survive into this world. Like we can't just be all love and light and not have boundaries. And but at the same time, if we're self-serving and we're selfish, it creates a lot of chaos on this planet, and that's what we're experiencing right now. And so it's really interesting to see that a lot of women are actually stepping into this role of, being the spiritual leaders of their community. And I love it when I see women just start to share, wisdom about the moon and herbal medicine and all these practices that are in harmony with nature. This is how we get back into our heart, and we get back into our connection with Mother Earth. And at the same time, the reason why I created the book, Building the Priestess Empire, is that we also need this balance of masculine energy, of, having this like masculine structure and discipline. We can't go the other side too far, because then it gets like it's like an ocean storm. It's like too much emotion, too much, feminine energy, where the way you want to ground this feminine energy within this realm, you need the masculine to do that, the divine masculine, not the bullshit that we see on social media that, that they're pushing, which is the wounded masculine, who uses, his power and status and cars to show off. And, and inside he's just like a wounded little boy that's really scared and angry and afraid. No, we're talking here about the divine masculine, the BDE, okay? We're talking about this energy of groundedness, of discipline, of, being rational. Like those are qualities that we need to build a digital empire, to build a structure for a family, to build a legacy. Like, those are all masculine traits, and it's very, very powerful when a woman combines those two, and obviously a man too as well, because that's how you get the pharaoh and the queen energy. That's what they represent. Yeah, I love this topic. I could talk about this for hours, but that's it for today. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments what you think about it, and I'll see you tomorrow for the next transmission. Bye.